Morning. Tabor here. January 9th, 2025. A lot of you have reached out, especially my friends from out of state, voicing some concerns about the wildfires here in Southern California. Those are taking place in LA County, probably about 100 miles north of where we're at here in eastern San Diego County. Of course, I appreciate the concern. Wildfires here in California are a major concern, and to see the devastation, to see the loss, to see the heartbreak for those folks in LA County, that just removes all hope for a good year in 2025. To watch people literally lose everything, it's sad. And you know, a lot of folks, including myself, think it's because of mismanagement by the state. Personally, I grew up in LA County, born and raised in LA County. Honestly, I couldn't wait to get out of there. In fact, I was so anxious to get out of there that I joined the Marine Corps at age 18 and never really turned back. I've lived in all of the counties of greater Southern California, with the exception of Riverside County. I've lived in LA County. I've lived in Orange County. I've lived in and currently live in San Diego County. And they all have their beauty and their charm, but they also have their challenges. And quite frankly, unless I was forced to, I would never consider moving back to Los Angeles County. In fact, I try to avoid it as much as possible when I'm driving north to visit family in the Central Valley. It's just become a very, very sad and depressing place with all the homelessness. You watch the news with all the criminal activity, and though it's beautiful and it has its charm, too many challenges for me to consider it as a place where I would ever want to live again. You know, that goes for California as a whole. It has its beauty, it has its charm, it has its deep history, it has its wonderful people. It has, of course, the beautiful terrain, and who could forget the amazing weather. Here it is January, and it's about a decent 65 degrees out this morning. So who would ever want to leave such a beautiful place? But the reality is, as we all know, that everybody has given some thought, at least who I've spoken with, to leave in this beautiful place. And many people are taking that next step to leave California. And for a number of reasons. You know, we look around as we want maybe some more land. We're on a pretty condensed block where we live, and though we love our neighbors, we have the best neighbors ever, we're a little close to them, and we've looked outside of the box, maybe a little further east, at possibly getting a bigger property, maybe with some more land so we can spread out a little bit. But the challenge is you run into a number of things. You run into, of course, housing costs, for crying out loud. I talk about it often on the radio show that our average sales price here in San Diego County is over $1 million. It's remained over $1 million all of the year. So if you want to buy an average house in San Diego County, prepare to pay over $1 million. For California as a whole, prepare to pay over $900,000 to buy a house in California. So housing costs are a real issue. And for those who don't own a house, well, they're facing a lot of challenges, especially with interest rates hovering around the 7% mark. When we look at the opportunity to maybe move to a bigger house, maybe in the back country, insurance is a concern. Essentially, most insurance companies, major insurance companies, have decided they were not going to insure any new purchases. And if you want to live east of where I'm at in San Diego County, what we lovingly refer to as the backcountry, there's really only one option, and it's the California Fair Plan, which is a government, state of California, of course, a government administered plan. And just looking around and seeing how the state of California government administers anything, certainly that plan has its challenges and its expenses. It was probably going to be close to $10,000 to $20,000 to insure a property in the backcountry if you wanted to go that route. Plus, $1 million. And unless you had that laying around in cash, 7% interest rate. So, the housing costs, the insurance costs, the cost of maintenance, the cost of everything starts to add up, and it just really doesn't make a lot of sense. Water scarcity is another issue. You could get a well back in the backcountry, but there are restrictions there. And the way the state has mismanaged the water, just go online, you'll find out that the fire hydrants in LA to fight these wildfires, rumor has it that they're running empty, they're running dry. Yet we just had some of the most historic rains in decades, but all that water they flushed it out to the ocean because they don't have the reservoirs in place or the dams in place to hold that water. I don't get it either, folks. Quite frankly, it just causes me to lose hope in those who are managing our state. Of course, as many of you know, my hope is faced up and not out. So when folks are thinking about what their next move is, when they're thinking about these challenges and what the cost of this beautiful place and this beautiful weather really is, it causes you to look further outside of the box. People with common sense, it causes them to look maybe further outside of the state boundaries. U-Haul equipment leaves California and has done that for decades now, far more than it comes into California. And one of the biggest things for me that is causing me to possibly go over that tipping point is this idea, this thought that California is going to be the abortion capital of the country. That our current governor and state leaders have decided that we are going to take on that title. It's abhorrent to me because it's abhorrent to God. And the idea that they're going to promote that as if promoting anyone who is maybe childless or who had gone through that knows that is not just not something to be celebrated, regardless of what your political views for so many emotional levels. To be celebrating things that, as a Christian, are written in the scriptures as an abomination, well, it's hard to support that. And I know Romans 13 and many other places in Scripture say that we are to submit to our government and we are to give honor to the king. Well, the good news, the exceptional news, is that by being blessed, by being born in the United States of America and being a United States citizen, on a state level, we have the option of 50 choices, and 49 of those are outside of the state of California. There's a scripture that keeps coming to mind, it keeps popping up from one of the influencers that I listen to on the internet, and it's out of Revelation, and it's talking about Babylon. Babylon has fallen. And that scripture is Revelation 18:4. Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins, and lest you receive of her plagues. The good news, by God's grace, is that we have 49 other choices. Tabor out.